Hi, and welcome back to Wisconsin Family. We've been enjoying ourselves here at RMR Wealth Advisors. We're right off the Beltline and the Yahara River. Beautiful view. Thank you for having us today. We are now joined by Eric Michelson and Dara Biederman. Thank you for having us, and we've got a lot to talk about today. So you guys specialize in a lot of things, one of those things being divorce. So why did you decide to focus on that today?
I guess, unfortunately, personal experience. I've been through, or we've both been through, divorce, and just realizing the overwhelming feelings, the amount of emotions that I didn't even know one could experience going through that, the amount of details, and being in the profession that we are in, still going into what we kind of call the fog of divorce, and realizing that I needed help sorting through everything. And then as a result of going through it, the number of people that just kind of happened to start finding us and asking for help for their situation just really kind of cemented the fact that in addition to good legal advice, having someone that you can trust and work with to look out for your financial situation both currently and for the rest of your life to make the best of the current situation you're going through.
It sure does help that you have the personal experience, because you can really empathize with your clients then on exactly what they're going through emotionally as well.
Yeah, and we know personally some of the mistakes that can happen because you just want to get through it quickly and have it be over, and the decisions that you make financially when you're going through that are going to follow you for the rest of your life, really. So I think for me, though, too, women are at a disadvantage financially already. So we earn less and we live longer and we're out of the workforce more. So we're already behind when it comes to saving for retirement.
Right.
And then if you have a divorce in the middle of it, I mean, divorce is one of the leading causes of bankruptcy. So it can really devastate you financially. So for me, I have this added incentive to try to help women specifically because it really can just derail your financial future.
You bet.
Yeah, so besides having that background and being able to empathize along with that, is there like special training or education that you need to do this as well?
Well, like Eric alluded to, the best education we both got was going through it.
Yeah.
But there are specific certifications. I have a certification that's specific to financial planning for divorce, and that's just specific education training and testing about like how to help someone through the process. But mostly we just have a lot of experience working with clients, and we know where things can go wrong.
Yeah, a few years of financial advice giving under your belts,
Yes.
to say the least. So let's talk more about the specifics of the finances. So what are some of the key things that people need to know if and when they're going through a divorce?
One, if you happen to be the spouse that wasn't as involved in the finances, and to Dara's point, probably more often than not, it's the wife that has been less involved. It's extremely important to, it's kind of game on, and I'm not sure how else to put it, is really get into it, find out what the details are, working with the attorney. Both spouses are going to be required to document all the finances, and you're doing that essentially under oath. So you have to legally disclose everything. So if one has been kind of planning for this and preparing, it's time to make sure that you become fully aware of what your overall situation is between the two of you.
I didn't even think about that, because the reality is, you're right, usually one of the two handles the finances, so half of the people involved are going into this pretty in the dark.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, I need someone responsible doing it, so my wife does it all, So
Yeah.
That's good.
yeah, it just kind of makes sense for us. So, okay, so people going through this process then, what are some of the common mistakes that you see that they make when they're going through this?
Okay. Well, probably the overall biggest mistake is in that fog of divorce. And all these emotions, I mean, it can actually be painful. There can be a lot of conflict, and you just want it over with. And so you're just kind of rushing, or maybe you want to be nice, you don't want to be the bad guy, and you're just kind of let's get an agreement and get it over with. And a specific example of that would be like a house and cash or retirement money. And let's say there's $100,000 of equity in a home and $100,000 in a bank or in investment accounts. And maybe your spouse says, hey, I'll take the $100,000, you can keep the home. They're equal. Well, they're not. The house is much more burdensome. That $100,000 is tied up in the house. There's ways to access it, but then you have loan payments on it. You have maintenance costs that are building up on that home. You're going to have payments, expenses, all kinds of things that go with that home.
Right.
And so those need to be equalized, and maybe instead of your spouse getting that $100,000, if the house is going to be yours, he or she gets less than that, so that you also have some of that cash to equal it out.
Cover the burden,
But,
right.
but really just making sure that your legal advice and from a financial perspective that you have people that are looking out for your best interest and really assessing the situation and making sure that not only today but for the rest of your life you're
Yeah,
coming out of this as good as you can.
That's what I was going to add on, is that I don't think people realize that anything you put in a divorce agreement, it's extremely difficult to change that later, sometimes nearly impossible. And so we're saying don't rush, and that's why, because you want to get through it, you just agree to something, and 5 years later you realize you got a really bad deal. It's really difficul to change it later on.
Yeah, so
And
gotta get it right.
and it's even more than just finances. If you have children,
Yeah, everything.
there's all the worry and potential
Schedule.
burden you feel you're putting on them. Thinking about how detailed you want your divorce agreement to be. What about the holidays? How are you going to split those? What's the schedule? And there's various ways to do that. So it's more than just the finances to really think about.
There is so much to know. So let's talk specific to services. So what types of services do you cover relating this topic?
You know, I think one of the really good things that we do is we sort of, to the fog of divorce thing, you're managing so many different things. You're trying to keep working, taking care of your kids, all of these things, and you have to manage that. So I sort of like to think of us as stepping in and working with the attorneys and the accountants to try to talk and negotiate some of this on your behalf, because you're just overwhelmed with all of the things going on. So that's a big one, I think.
Yeah, and if it's an amicable situation, just helping evening out how the assets are going to be split, making sure that it's fair and equitable. And so we look at it that kind of you should be able to take one or the other. And once you get to that point, car or the cash. And if they say you take the car, well, I'll take the cash, well, maybe flip it around. And if you're okay with either one, that's kind of a nice way to have it be equalized.
And there's so many laws that play a part into this too. We don't have time to get into some of those, but it's nice to know that there's someone on your side that does have the information, that can navigate this for you, and even just having a third party that is free of that emotional stress.
Absolutely,
Exactly.
that's what you need, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing all this information. There's a lot to know. Dara and Eric, of course, here with RMR Wealth Advisors. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
I want to thank all of our guests for joining us today on Wisconsin Family. From Rich and myself, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.